I was dreaming of bigger things and wanna leave my old life behind. Thunder.
You're listening to the Create What You Speak podcast. My intention is to change the lives of 1 million women, one podcast at a time. Now let's get started.
Thunder, feel the thunder.
My name is Sloan Fremont, and today I'm going to talk to you about phases.
I wish somebody would have told me, babe, someday these will be the good old days. All the love you won't forget, and all these reckless nights you won't regret. Someday soon your whole life's gonna change. You'll miss the magic of these good old...
Welcome to episode 77. I can't believe it's been 77 episodes of the Create What You Speak podcast. Before I get into today's show, I want to give you an example of something that I talked about a few episodes back. This was on episode 75. I did a show called Ease. And so I want to start out today telling you another story about ease, about allowing things to be easy in our lives. And if you missed that episode, you can go back and listen. I obviously go into a lot more detail about that. But I'm telling you this story today because this is something I've discovered in my own life when I'm just starting to live a little easier, right? When I'm not living this amped up, like fist, clenched, like shoulders up at my ears type life, right? I'm living a little more easier these days. And so I want to share this story with you. So the other day I was flying to Orlando for work, and which was awesome because it was like 80 there and it was like 20 in Nashville. We had this like weird storm come through. And when I woke up that morning, I had a text that my flight had been canceled. And so I just assumed this was because of weather, because here in the South, when there's like any like one flake of snow, the whole town shuts down, right? So I was, it was like 6 a.m. and I was out of it. And so I was trying to get on another flight because I really did need to go to Orlando. And so I found another flight to get on, and it delayed me like 3 hours, which was annoying, but I'm like, okay, whatever. It's weather. There's nothing I can do about it. So I was headed to the airport, and I went really early because I wasn't sure what the weather was like. And it actually was nothing. There was like nothing at all. Like it was cold and a light dusting of snow. But anyway, I always fly Southwest. And so because I checked in late because I got on a different flight, I was in C boarding, which is a no for me because I am A-list and I have, so I always get A boarding. And so I'm like, no, I'm not going to sit in C. But because I have A-list, I can get in at the end of the A's, like A60, like before they board B, but I just wasn't in the mood for that. Like some days I'm just simply not in the mood for like all the people around me. So I go to the Southwest gate and I talk to this agent about switching my flight, and she got me A2 for like $22 extra. Totally worth it to me, just so I don't have to deal with the hassle of people. So, but as I'm going, because I tell this story, so there's pieces of this that all fit together for this to line up. So I don't want to be in C boarding. I don't want to be at the end of A boarding. So I go to the gate agent. She gets me A2 for $22, the upgrade into Business Select. So, okay, so we're standing there and chatting while she's doing this, and we have the same last name. And so she was talking, and we were just talking about that, and I don't know, she was just nice and we were just talking. And so I got my upgrade and off I went, right? I go to eat, I walk around, do my usual, look for celebrities, which, I saw Scottie Pippen from the Bulls. That's who I saw, like randomly at the airport was Scottie Pippen. Like, pretty sure it was him. I like looked at him, and then he looked at me, and I like took a longer look at him, and he's like, oh, I think he was thinking, oh, she recognizes me. But, so if you don't know that story, anytime I go to the airport, I always meet or see famous people. And so this time it was Scottie Pippen. He used to play for the Bulls. So, okay, so I'm doing that. I'm walking around, and then I'm like, okay, it's whatever. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to go back to the gate, and I'm sitting near that same gate agent who helped me with the upgrade. And I'm like sitting and I'm facing her, and I can hear her talking to this other couple and they're mad about, I assumed they were probably on the flight I was on that got canceled. And so she talks to them about, or she's telling them that she can give them $100 voucher each for future flights, the Southwest voucher. And so I'm like, wait a minute, I'm sitting there and I'm hearing this. I'm like, what about my flight? I just assumed my flight was canceled for weather. I didn't even bother to check. And Southwest doesn't give any vouchers for that since it's weather related, because they call it act of God, and all that. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to go ask her. She was super nice before, so the worst she's going to do is tell me no. So I go up to her and I said, do I get a voucher for my flight being canceled? And she said, well, what flight were you on? So I told her, and she said, why was it canceled? And I said, I'm not sure. So she said, okay, let me check. And so she called somebody, And she's like, okay, just have a seat and I'll call you over. And so she calls on the phone, and like 3 minutes later, she calls me over and she's like, okay, here's your voucher. So it turned out my flight was canceled for mechanical issues, which is a reason for Southwest to give a voucher for future flights. So I was able to get a $100 voucher. I really didn't even do anything. I just sat down, I overheard something, and I asked a question. That was it. So there was very little effort on my part. And just following those nudges that put me in the right place to hear that conversation with the other passengers to then prompt me to go ask the gate agent and walk away with $100 towards my next flight. Right. So this is what I mean. These are when I talk about ease and these stories where things just line up. I just wanted to share this example with you because like I said at the beginning of the show that I just noticed these things more and more in my life as I relax into life. Right. And just freaking let go, just let go of all that control. And it's such a better feeling to relax into things rather than walk around like I used to, like all tense and uptight and, because I'm trying to control it all. So that was the story of ease. So this week's show is what I'm talking about. This week we're going to talk about phases. So let's get into this topic. And this topic came to me as I was thinking about my own life lately and like how I spend my time. And I was talking to a friend about concerts and I just commented how I barely go to shows anymore. And I got to thinking about why, because that was such a big part of my life when I moved here to Nashville. And so I'm thinking why, why don't I do that anymore? And I think part of it is because the newness of that wore off, right? It as anything does over time. But I think the other part is I've discovered other things and I'm doing other things now. Like dancing has become something I spend a lot of time on with lessons and just because I love it for the social aspect. So a lot of my time, is spent on that. And as I was talking to someone else about this, we got another conversation about this. I commented about how I was going through different phases. Like I called that my concert phase and I called like dancing my dance phase. And in my mind, it was like I started to give myself shit for that. Like because I wasn't still doing the concert phase as much as I used to. So I started I could feel myself starting to give myself shit for that in my own mind. And I was like, wait a minute, no. No, it's perfectly okay to like something for a while and then move on to something else, right? Like I can go through phases. That's okay. And I think for a long time I felt like afraid, wrong, or bad to change my mind about something. Like let's say I decide to do something, anything. It could be a job, it could be a relationship, a friendship, a hobby, a place that I live, like whatever it is. Like I decide, like when I try something or I get into it, like I maybe realize, wait a minute, I don't like this. I don't like this thing. I don't like this person. I don't like this relationship. I don't like this job. But I don't want to look like I jump from this to that to the next. So I'll stick with it for a while, even if I don't like it. Right? Like maybe you can relate to that where you've been in something where you thought it was something when you tried it or you were all gung ho about it and then you got into it and you're like, no, not so much for me. And I think that like it's so terrible that we keep ourselves in these things that we don't like just because we feel like we have to do it. Like just because I started it, well, I better finish it, right? Even if I don't like it. And I think, putting ourselves through something we don't like just because we decided to try it is, I think so many people are trapped in that, like in life, like so many people are trapped in that belief about that. And we're allowed to try things, right? And if we don't like those things, we're allowed to change our minds and move on to something new. And this goes for anything. Like I said, jobs, relationships, hobbies, friendships, books, right? Books we read. Like how many times have you started a book and been like, this is not what I thought this was going to be. But do you keep on reading the book even if you don't like it? Or do you just be like, fuck it, I'm going to move on to something else, right? And classes we take, like anything in life. We get to pick how we want our life to go. And to me, wasting time on something we don't even like doing in the first place is not a good use of time. And so one of the amazing things about being a human is we have the freedom to try something, and we also have the freedom to change our mind about that thing if it ends up not working for us. And like I said, I think so many people get stuck in something simply because they don't feel like they're free to change their mind about it, right? They feel like, well, I have to see it through, or I have to, whatever, who knows, insert, reason that anybody could have. But I think, the fun of life is being able to do things and see what works for us and then trying something different if it doesn't work. Like, we shouldn't be afraid to ask for more and to want more or experience things that help us ask for more, right? Like, that thing that you don't like, whatever it is, could be the exact thing that you needed to move on to the next thing that you do like, right? Like, so going through something that we don't like let's just say, a hobby. Let's take that as an example. Like, let's say you got into, I don't know, CrossFit and you didn't like it, but then it led you to meet somebody who introduced you to another form of exercise that you did like, right? Like, so changing your mind and moving on to something doesn't mean that thing you did was a waste of time or bad or wrong or any of those things. It just meant that it was where it felt right at the time. And then when you changed your mind, you were able to go on to the next thing that felt right to you. And that's part of life, right? Being able to experience those things. And then as a result of experiencing those things, we get to ask for more. We get to experience more. We get to move on to the next thing. And so that's really the point of today's show. It's just becoming okay with going through phases in your life and not feeling bad or wrong when something is no longer working for you, and having, giving yourself permission to be okay with changing your mind about whatever that is for you. So for me, back on this, what I was talking about with the concerts and not really doing that anymore, when I was in that moment of giving and let me say also why this was a thing for me, why I felt like I was giving myself shit about that, was because that's what everybody knew me for, right? Like, everybody knew me as a person who went to concerts, right? They would, oh, what show did you go to? Or who did you meet? Or, blah, blah, blah. You're in the front row, all this stuff. Like, that's what people knew me for. So I think that's why I started to give myself shit for that, because it's like, if I don't do that, then what are people going to, quote, know me for, right? Like, so in that moment of giving myself shit for realizing I don't really go to concerts that much anymore, and that was just a phase, I was like, so what? Who cares? What I wanted to do changed. Like, I had so much fun during that concert, and I'm not even saying I'm out of that concert phase. I'm just not doing it as much as I used to. But I had so much fun over the years going to so many shows. I met so many good people. I have so many amazing memories, and many of those are on the walls in my home. But it doesn't mean I'll never go to a concert again. It just means I'm doing other things now that make me feel good and that are fun. And so that's what led me to dancing, right? I love to be able to go do something social that is active, that doesn't involve me just sitting in one spot or standing and drinking, right? It's active, and I barely have time to drink when I'm doing that. And I love I love that being able to meet different people that way. And so it's just a new phase of fun for me. And so as I was putting the show together, I wondered, in your own life, are you giving yourself shit for changing your mind, or not even allowing yourself to change your mind because you think you have to stick with something forever just because you made a decision some time ago to do this thing, right? That this thing may be the right thing for you. And I'm sure we all do the best we can with what we know, right? And we make decisions based on that. And over time, maybe those decisions don't feel so good anymore. But guess what? That's okay, right? You didn't do anything wrong. You tried something, it didn't work, and now you get to move on to something new. I was talking to one of my other friends recently who I used to work with, and one of the things he used to always remind me of is that nothing is forever, right? Like, everything changes. And that includes your mind about anything and everything that you have ever chosen for yourself. So changing your mind is not a bad thing. In fact, like I said, it's one of the great things about being a human, that we're free to change. And there's a quote I often go back to by Abraham that I love so much that says, "You are so free, you can choose bondage." You're so free, you can choose bondage. Like, you're so free to choose that you can choose to be trapped by your own mind if you choose to, right? And if you really take the time to let that sink in, I think you can start to see, like, the greatness of the power you have, right? And so don't be afraid to use it. Like I said, the only constant in life is change. And with that comes new blessings, new things, new people, new experiences, new ways to live. And it's okay to leave things behind for you that no longer resonate. And it's not selfish. It's not bad. You will be fine. Everyone else involved will be fine too, right? And it's moving from phase to phase. Yes, there's emotions that come with that. There's feelings. There's, all of these different things. But that's okay too, right? Like, that's okay. We are surrounded by such a supportive universe that, it's always going to be okay for us, no matter what we're going through, right? And oftentimes those endings, those phases that we're ending are really just the beginning of something new. And so as you move forward this week, take a look in your life and see, is there a phase that you are totally done with, but you're hanging on to it because you feel like you can't change your mind, or because you feel bad, or you feel guilty, or you feel, or who knows, whatever you feel. Maybe you're holding on to it because you feel it's what you're supposed to do, what people expect of you. Like me, that's how people know me as. So who am I going to be if I change and do something else, right? Or maybe you just haven't given yourself the permission to invite change into your life. Like whatever it is, it's okay. But this week, I challenge you to look at whatever phase you know is done for you and start to think about how you can let that go and move on to something new that fits you much better at this time in your life. And one other thing I want to mention about phases, sometimes when we look at wanting to start something new, a new phase in our life, we're like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do that. Yes, that sounds good. I'll get around to it someday. It'll always be there. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. But then we never do it. And I want to share an example of how, with dancing, about how something I wanted, but I put off, but now is not always going to be there. So again, I talk about dancing a lot, and I'm sorry if that's annoying, but it's just what I do. And I have a lot of examples from that. So I had thought about taking salsa and bachata lessons for probably close to 2 years with this husband and wife team here in Nashville that teach. They're amazing teachers. Everybody loves them. They're like the go-to people in town. There's a lot of teachers, but the husband and wife couple is really top notch. And so I watched their posts and their updates, like I said, for probably 2 years. And I kept thinking, oh yeah, I'll do that. Okay, I'll do that. And then I went through, the top performers competition, and I was like, okay, now I'm ready to do this. Okay, yep, I'm ready to do this. So I started taking lessons with them and loving it. They're amazing teachers, learning so much. And then just this week, that couple posted that they're going to be traveling the world starting February 2020. So they will no longer be teaching lessons, as they're moving on to another phase in their own life. And as soon as I saw this, I was like, no, oh my God, why did I wait so long to take lessons from them? Because they're not going to be here anymore. I'm not going to be able to do that. And so I give you this example to show you that the thing you're admiring from afar that you really want to do, but haven't stepped into that phase yet, may not always be there for you to actually do. Because just like we're going through phases, so is everyone else. So don't take it for granted that it's always going to be there, because just like with my example, it's not always going to be there. All right. So that's it for our topic this week on phases. I'll do a quick recap, talk about the songs I picked, which I'm excited for this week because I feel like they fit really well, and then close this out. So this week was all about giving ourselves permission to actually move through and have phases in our lives, but also the permission to move into them freely as we discover what does or doesn't work for us. And I think many of us, and definitely myself included, we get stuck in something and we think we have to do it forever just because we decided it was the best thing for us at some point in our lives. And we become afraid to move on when we know it no longer works for us, because we fear maybe the opinion of other people, or we have our own guilt about it, or whatever it is going on. We're afraid of moving from something comfortable to something uncomfortable. But as you know, the only constant in life is change. And remember, you're so free in this life that you can actually choose bondage for yourself. So it's okay to leave things behind that no longer resonate. It's not selfish. It's not bad. You will be fine, and so will everybody else involved. We are surrounded by a universe that has our back, right? All of us. We are surrounded by a universe that has our back. And I think you'll find moving from a phase that no longer serves you into something new is really, while there's emotions and there can be sadness and all these other feelings, that the ending really was just the beginning of the next thing that we needed. All right. Songs this week. All right. Intro song, Good Old Days by Macklemore. So I don't remember. I think Kesha is also with him on this song, but, I liked this song for this week because phases, right? Like going through phases, how we think something is going to last forever. And then we can look back on it and be like, wait, those were the good old days, right? When we were like at this phase in our life, we were doing this or we were doing that. And so the song goes, the chorus of the song, I wish somebody would have told me that someday these will be the good old days. All the love you won't forget, all those reckless nights you won't regret, because someday soon your whole life's going to change. You'll miss the magic of the good old days. I think that's a really good, really good line. You'll miss the magic of the good old days, to go with this topic of phases. Okay, the outro song is called There Will Be Another by Bronze Radio Return. And I love this song also as we talk about phases this week, because here's the chorus. There will be another. It says, because there will be another one. Something new to fall into. It will be a better one. There will be another one. Someone you will hold on to, there will be a better one. And so it talks about, moving on, right? Like the phases, right? Like we want to hold on so much, often in relationships too, that no longer work. But when we let go, there will be a better one. And I love this line, something new to fall into, right? Like I think that's such a perfect line for, moving into a different phase. It made me almost like cry. I don't know why, but, I think that's a really good one. So, okay, so that's it for this week on our topic of phases. I would love to know what you think, what phases you're going through, what phase maybe you're afraid to leave behind. If you have questions about this, feel free to email me, sloanfremont@gmail.com. My website is sloanfremont.com and Instagram @sloanfremont. If you like the podcast, please remember, subscribe, rate, review, tell your friends, share with everyone. I would love to get the message out, and I would so appreciate your help in doing that. Abracadabra, now go forth and create what you speak.
'Cause there will be another one. Something new to fall into, and it'll be a better one. There will be another one. Someone you will hold on to, and they will be a better one.